everyone from Dunrovin Ranch in Lola, Montana. Look who's with me. This is my shy gal here. And we are so delighted to have you here. My goodness, this is an unexpected end to our summer.
Oh,
It's wonderful.
It's been wonderful for me.
Well, let me tell you, she almost didn't sit down here. I had to drag her out of the stall. You have fallen under Kelly's clutches, haven't you?
Oh, no, I volunteer. I want to do those things.
Yeah. So what is it you like about doing those things?
Oh, I just love being around the horses. I love the smells. I love the smell of horse hide. I love the smell of horse hay. And I love the smell of horse poop.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you're
there
one
you
of
go.
us. You're one of us. For those of you who don't know Gabby, I will give you a name. Can you give us a name and where you're from,
A
Gabby?
real name?
A real name. A real name.
Gail is my real name, and I'm from Missouri, Springfield, Missouri. It's the southwest corner of Missouri.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people now know where Branson is.
Yes.
We're 30 miles from Branson. It used to be that people knew where Springfield was, and
Now
then
they
you
know,
told them where
yeah.
Branson was. Now it's opposite.
My husband's grandfather was a professor in Missouri, a soils professor, agricultural soils.
Where?
Well, I think it was Springfield. Isn't there a university?
Yes.
I think so.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's great.
Isn't that cool? Yeah. And my husband used to go down to visit him there. Yeah. So we have a bit of a Missouri connection. And when I knew Gail was coming, I wanted to try to cement the Lewis and Clark connection too, because they, of course, started in Missouri, and then Montana was kind of at the other end, not quite, Washington State. But Lewis and Clark are big names in Montana, and they are in Missouri too.
Yeah,
aren't
and
they?
they ended in Missouri too. I
Yes.
think, so.
Yeah, there and back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the room that you are in is called Clark. And the reason for that is because we really love the whole story of Lewis and Clark. And at one point in time, this ranch was incorrectly identified as one of the campsites. We had a
Oh,
plaque
really?
on. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Traveler's Rest, they called it.
Oh.
Yes.
And I've seen that
Yes.
park up there.
Yes,
Wow.
I'm really glad that the real park is not here. It belongs in public hands for sure. But in talking with Gail, we found we have something in common, and that is that we have both spent some time in Guatemala. And how was it that you came to go to Guatemala?
Well, I had always wanted to go on a mission trip
With your church.
with our church.
And what church is your church?
I've been in a variety of churches,
Uh-huh.
but it's Christian church.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, that's not the denomination, but just.
Right.
And so my son got to go first on a trip, and then 6 months, that was kind of the groundbreaking trip to go on that one.
How old was he?
He was
5 times a year. And
16 or
Oh,
17.
so
I
a
think.
teenager.
Yes.
Wow, that was an exciting adventure.
Yes, and then so then that same group decided to go back later that same year, and I was like, I'm in on this, man. I'm going. And then he talked his dad into going, which his dad had not had any interest in going, but he went and he loved it. So we went for 10 or 12 years on this trip every year.
Every year.
And we made wonderful friends, even though we went way up in the mountains. It was like 10 or 12 hour chicken bus ride to begin with. The buses got better the last couple of years.
And
the
chicken
roads
bus
got-
means that there are chickens on the bus.
But we didn't have chickens on our bus, but we had one of those buses rented. And some years we had to have a couple of them, depending on how many people went. But it was way up in the mountains, and the roads were like one lane, and you felt like you were going to drop off.
Yeah, twisty,
all the
turny.
time.
Yeah.
We did have lots of problems, like flat tires and different things. We'd have to stop along the way. But we got up there, and it's just, the people were just magnificent. They lived in just shacks, just board shacks with mud floors, and so we went up there to help, first of all, one of the main things was stoves, that this organization had come up with a stove to help them get the fires. They cooked on fires in the middle of their house,
Right.
which was either one or two rooms. That they
So
all
the smoke
slept in.
inhalation and everything,
Yes,
not
the
good
smoke
for them.
was terrible.
Yeah.
So we went up putting those stoves in and putting in concrete floors to get them off the mud floors, the dirt floors, to help with parasites and things like that.
Right.
But we made just lifelong friends, best relationships. They speak Ishil up where we went, and I looked it up the other day. There are 50 languages in Guatemala.
And Guatemala's not a big place.
Approved languages.
Wow.
And
21 of which are of Mayan descent.
yes, and these were mines we went to. And
Right.
these people had been caught up in the Civil War and had been run off their property and lost everything they had. And there were very few males left because so many males were killed. And so a lot of these widows needed help,
Yeah.
doing stuff. So anyway, we had to have 2 translators, and just as if you go up in the mountains, you just about do wherever you go because there are so many languages. You have to have one from Spanish,
Right.
or from English to Spanish, and then one from Spanish to whatever language is in that village.
Right.
So,
Boy, it's a really exciting thing to do something like this, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, it really opens your eyes.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, people who have nothing can be so generous and joyful.
Yes. Oh, yes, they were.
Yeah.
No.
And I'm going to take you on a little trip to Guatemala here. I've loaded up some photos, and I'm not sure that everybody knows where Guatemala is, so I'm going to start with a map. You want to bring this up, Jake? Yeah, here we are. Guatemala is kind of sandwiched between Mexico on the north and Salvador and Honduras on the south. And when my husband and I came back from Chile, we took the land route. So we came through El Salvador and through Honduras and entered Guatemala from El Salvador. And this was in the 1970s for us, and I'll never forget our entrance into Guatemala. It was a very conservative country, the 1970s, so it was before the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
And, the 70s was the end of the hippie era. And there was this young man on our bus with us. We were just traveling on bus, who had long hair. And the Guatemalan officials didn't like his long hair. So they made him cut it right there.
Oh, my.
So at the border, they're cutting this kid's hair. And I mean, this guy's not a barber. It looked pretty bad. And then when we got to Guatemala City, I noticed that the marquees on the few theaters that were downtown, movie theaters, would say women could go at a certain time and men could go at another time. They couldn't go together. It was very conservative, very, kind of backward at that point in time. Mm-hmm. And but beautiful. One of the things, go on to the next slide there, Jake. This is a more close-up map of Guatemala, and I wanted to give people a little bit of a context of the area that I'm going to be showing photos. You can see where it says Guatemala City. That's the capital. There are about 8 million people that live in Guatemala, and about 1 million of them live in Guatemala City. And then just north and a little bit west of that is a place called Antigua, and you've been there.
Yes.
It's an incredible place.
Yes.
And then just a little north of that is Lake Atilan, and beautiful. And those are the areas I remember from Guatemala. So that I just wanted to give you a context of where we were talking about. But before I start about the geography, I knew people would want to know about a bird.
Oh, the quetzal.
Yes, the quetzal?
Quetzal?
Quetzal? Yeah.
Is how you say it? Yeah.
Quetzal, yeah.
Okay.
I think so. Something like, and that's their national bird. And boy, what a bird. Did you see any?
No, we never saw any.
Yeah. I don't remember seeing them
It's on
either.
a lot of the things they make. It's in a lot of
Yeah.
their clothes. And
Yeah, it's very prominent in their culture. Yeah, beautiful bird. Next one, Jake, is another picture of them. parrot-like bird. Actually, it's not in the parrot family, but just a gorgeous bird with a very interesting sound, and predominantly in the tropical forests of Central America, all the way from southern Mexico through Guatemala down into El Salvador. At any rate, I thought you all would like to see the bird. And then let's go on to Guatemala City, Jake. Guatemala City is a big city, just like any big city, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And you spent time there, did you not?
No, we were just in and out of there to the
Flew in.
airport. Yes.
Yeah.
And then we did spend time in Antigua. After we would come back down out of the mountain, we would stay in Antigua for a day to go to the market and just have a day of R&R.
R&R.
You know, before we flew
So you
home.
were in the mountains around Antigua.
Well, they were pretty far. They were like a 10-hour drive from Antigua.
Yeah. You know, the Central America is very mountainous.
Yes.
The Rockies go right through Mexico and right on down, and then they become the Andes in South America. But there's basically a spine of the Americas, and it goes through Central America. And so, all of Central America is mountainous. So let's go, and the other thing that's interesting about Central America, want to go to the next slide, Jake, is that, it was one of the first parts of the Americas to be Europeanized. The Europeans came in the 1500s, the Spanish came in the 1520s, very early. In fact, I think Guatemala was established in 1524.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, that's really
I know that
early.
a lot of the buildings in Antigua are that old.
They are that old.
Yeah.
And in the United States, we just don't have a concept of things being that old. And so let's go on to the next slides, because these are of Antigua. And did you go? Wasn't this a nunnery? You remember this building?
I can't see it, but we went on a tour to several.
It's a big,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
a
I
big
think I did go to-
courtyard, and it was a big courtyard, and it was a nunnery for a long time.
Yes. And they
Yeah.
have a lot of those preserved.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're really old.
Really neat. You
Yeah,
can
from the
take tours
15,
of them.
1600s.
Yes.
And a lot of them have been partially ruined because of earthquakes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of earthquakes and a lot of volcanoes
Yes.
in the area.
Yeah. In fact, Antigua has 3 volcanoes around it.
Yeah.
And one spews all the time. And it's the one that just a couple of months ago, they had a big volcano
Yeah.
eruption and
Right.
it destroyed lots and many lives. But it went the other way from Antigua. It went to the other side.
Yeah.
And then there's one that's called Agua, and it's water. It's a water volcano.
Water volcano. Oh, God. I did not know that.
Yeah.
And where is it relative to Antigua?
It's right there. They are just
Right together.
right they're on 3 sides of
Yeah.
Antigua. There are volcanoes.
Well, I've got some photos here. We'll get there.
Okay.
So let's go to the next photo. This is kind of a classic one of Antigua, the next photo. This is what you always see of Antigua, and that's a volcano behind it. This is one of the old streets. I'm sure you went through that
Oh,
arch.
yes.
Everybody goes through that arch.
Yes, many
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I don't remember the name of the street.
There's
but-
good shopping and
Yeah.
markets on that street.
Yeah, very, very colonial. Very
Yes,
colonial.
yes.
Yeah. And the next 3 slides are of Lake Atelan, and so there are some of the volcanoes, the lake and the volcanoes. You can probably see better on the paper than you can.
Yes.
Yeah. And so here are the volcanoes that would be. You would see them from Antigua as well.
Yes. Yeah, you can see them from a lot of places.
Yeah, you go to the next one too, Jake. It's a big lake, and it's a really deep lake.
I think it's from a crater, isn't it?
Yes.
I don't remember, but I know it's very deep.
Very, very deep.
And we went across it on a boat to another village, and it was kind of creepy because it was so, knowing it was so deep, it was like,
Yeah. It's
en-
kind of
endlessly
dark.
deep.
It's dark water.
But
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
it is. Yeah, a really vivid dark blue. You can kind of see that in those photos. They're kind of vivid. And the other thing that Gail and I were talking about was how colorful the people and the arts and crafts are. And I just wanted to give you some ideas of what their arts and crafts look like with these slides. So these were, I remember these shoulder bags. Everybody carried a shoulder bag that was handmade. In fact, I bought one in Guatemala. Of course, that was 40 years ago, so I don't still have it.
Well, that's good.
That's right. But it was just so, I mean, everything there was just brilliant, vibrant colors and so inviting.
Yes.
Just really beautiful. Go on to the next
the
one.
weavings are just gorgeous.
Yeah.
And for the Mayan people, in every village you went to up in the mountains, well, and even at Lake Atitlan at Panajachel, I think is how you say that, the city there, the skirts that the women wear are according to their village. The weaving of their skirt, the color and the pattern are according to what village they live in, and you can tell where people are from by their skirts.
Big round skirts. Yeah, and many women with babies on their back. Yes, the babies carried them in a shawl kind of a carrier, which again a beautiful hand woven shawl. Would you call it a shawl? You know,
yeah, I can't remember the name of it.
It wasn't. Yeah, but there was it was that babies on their back. Yeah.
And they had a special way they'd wrap them. They just bend over and put them on their back.
Yeah.
And, you know, the little kids, the little sisters, you know, like 6 or 8 years old would carry those babies on their backs, too. Their brothers and sisters.
Yeah. They're very beautiful. Yeah. Okay, so here's another example of some of the blankets. And, I mean, it's just such vibrant colors. You can't help but want to buy them. And the other thing I remember were their dolls. The next slide. Everything seemed to be made of wool, and they had all kinds of you know, Christmas decorations and everything sort of made out of wool and little balls of wool and sticks. They would weave sticks into things.
Yes.
You know, and
I
kind of
think
a cartwheel.
By the time we were there, I think they had changed to a cotton thread.
The cotton.
Yeah. I don't think they were wool, but that's interesting that they changed.
Well, they used to spin the wool. You could see them on thimble spins. You know that there was, and I'm sure you saw some of them doing it. Yeah. And then the other thing I remember were their hammocks.
Yes.
And we did have 2 of these hammocks.
We did too. We had all these things. We had boxes and boxes of Guatemalan stuff.
Yeah, you can't help yourself.
No,
I mean, they're
you
just
can't.
and they're really inexpensive. And they're just gorgeous.
And you want to help support their livelihood too. You know,
exactly. So. Yeah, it feels. I mean, you buy directly, oftentimes from the person who made it.
Right.
Yeah, which is always fun too. Yeah. And then the next picture, before we get into Gail's pictures, is of Mayan ruins. This was sort of the end of the Mayan civilization, or through South America. It went down, I think, to Honduras, and then it kind of petered out. Yeah, and of course through Mexico, lots of Mayans in Mexico. Yeah. But like I said, the Mayans had over 21 languages within their own culture. So all of these villages and mountain groups were really kind of isolated and insular for many, many years. And they were just, you know, their own little group.
Right.
Yeah.
And people in the city didn't know what was going on up in the hills. Like when we would get translators from the city, they would go with us and they would have no idea the way these people lived up in the mountains, and that all this,
like a different
world,
world,
a different culture up there.
Yeah, no Spanish spoken. Okay, so let's go on to your personal photos, Gail. This next one is yours, and you need to tell us what this is.
Well, it's just in Antigua. It's just a typical shot of Antigua. And like Sue said, just many ancient buildings and cobblestone streets. You have to watch your step. They also, I can't see this picture well enough, but they also, a lot of the places along there, some are buildings and some are houses. You have no idea. Sometimes it's just flat on the front, maybe has a pretty window with the iron on the window, but the windows stick out. So you can't be talking to your friend and run into a window that's sticking out like I did many times. But also, they're just, a lot of them are just plain on the front. They're pretty colors. They have a pretty door, but you have no idea what's behind that door. It is just fabulous what
And
people
courtyards.
have done with those places.
And courtyards in the back. Yeah.
Some are houses, some are restaurants, some are hotels. One we'll get to in a minute was an old monastery that was a hotel we stayed at because we were a big group. We got a good price and could stay there. But it was made from an old monastery, and they still have all the ruins in the back, and they have many weddings back there in the old ruins. And I think they had kind of a museum too, if I remember right. But I know they had old bones of monks in the crypt. You could go down and see those. But it's just gorgeous.
How
Gorgeous.
exciting.
Yeah. And when we were there, we always went over the Thanksgiving week. So we had people could get off more days.
Yeah, right.
And for them, that was their June. That
Right.
was
Spring.
Yeah. So they were having many weddings. Walking down the street, you could look in churches and see weddings going on, and it was really neat.
Festive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So the next slide, Jake. Now, this would be a typical scene on a road, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. And this is one of the last villages I was in that we had switched. We had pretty well completed everything we wanted to do in the other village, and we went back to visit those people because we all know them so well. But we had gone on to a couple of other villages, and this was up at that village, and I don't remember the name of it, of course, but I just loved seeing the sheep go up and down the road. It's really nice.
So tell me about the program. Does the program persist?
Yes, and they have. This started out. There was a Wycliffe minister, a Wycliffe translator, that was in the Guatemalan mountains, and he was there through part of the Civil War, and many of his acquaintances were killed, and somehow he got in contact or met this businessman from Dallas, Texas, and this businessman started this organization called HELPS. And so together they worked with these groups, and they brought in, all of this help, the extra help. They bring in different teams throughout the year, and they did, like I said, the stoves, the concrete floors, Vacation Bible School. We helped teach health to some of the women, and they've also added the last few years a water purifier that's portable, that will sit in their home, And
Well, these little things make a huge difference in health,
they do.
don't
And
they?
then they also had medical. We had a small health clinic, which we say small, but the line would be,
Right.
way down the street, waiting to get in for just simple things. But then,
You had visiting doctors that would come?
so we had doctors sometimes with us, sometimes just nurses, but to them that was
Oh,
like
yeah.
a doctor.
Right.
But they also have medical surgical teams. They're like big mesh units, and we went with one of those one year. And they take months to get planned and set up, and they treat like 400 people in a few days. And
Wow.
one of
What a
the
great
most meaningful
organization.
things is when you really connect with someone. And one of those times at the medical surgical clinic, I had walked in, and a woman had just had a baby, and she called me, and this is how you say come here in Guatemala. She called me over, and she wanted me to hold her baby. Just enjoy. And then another time, one of the first times we were in our normal village, you walk the street, look down the street, just looking around at one time, and this group of little kids came up and grabbed my hands and wanted to walk with us. Just those connections that really get to you.
Yeah. What a great organization. I mean,
Yeah.
Things like a stove and a water purification. I mean, think about all the waterborne disease.
A beautiful hotel, parts of it. And it was just beautiful. And you could go up on the rooftop and look at the volcanoes, and see lots of stuff. So
Yeah, and that's where you see that there's a courtyard in. You open this door and you go into almost like another world.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and real high walls between the buildings, so you don't see your neighbor, and it's like your own private little world
Yes.
back there.
Yeah.
And most of Central and South America has that kind of architecture. I kind of like it.
Oh, I do too. I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, we wanted for the first several years we went there. We kept thinking, is there some way we could move here? We were really serious about it, but
Yeah,
it just
yeah.
wasn't in the
It's
cards. you know,
beautiful.
but-
Well, Gail, have you accomplished what you wanted to here? Are you
Yes,
going to
but
ride with
can
me
I
tomorrow?
stay?
Are you going to ride with
I
me
don't know.
tomorrow?
I would love to. Yes.
Good. Have you ridden yet?
I was on Erskine earlier for a little while.
Oh, wonderful.
So-
Well, terrific. At around 11 o'clock, another woman's going to come out, and we'll get started around 11. And then I have some other women coming out at noon, and we'll go across the river.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds wonderful.
That's going to be fun. And I'm sure everybody will watch it. Did they watch it today? Did you chat with people?
I think they did. I got a few pictures.
That's great.
They've been getting in trouble for a few pictures. So yeah.
Oh, yeah. She said, you got to watch her. She does a lot of picture taking. She probably got videos out there, too. You got to be careful with her around. She's great, isn't she?
Yes.
And a very good camera operator. So, was there anything you'd like to say to our chatters before we sign off here?
Well, you should come here. It is gorgeous. It's a lot different on the ground than it is on the cam.
Yeah, is
It
it?
is wonderful. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Just the sights and the smells and I don't know, the mountains and the sun. You can drive. I've driven down towards Stevensville yesterday, and I drove up Highway 12, just a little ways today. But both trips I wanted to just keep going because the scenery is so pretty. It's just magnificent around here.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, well, I'm hopeful that one day we'll be able to have a whole, kind of a day, a week that's set aside for Dunrovin people to meet here. To kind of come all at once, so everybody can
Be
meet each other.
wonderful.
It would be fun, wouldn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah, we'd like that. We had a little bit of that in June.
Yes.
DeLady came, and we had Bobcat, and we had B-Bond. Yeah, we had quite a few of them. Yeah, and it was fun, way fun.
Yep.
Yeah. So all of you need to come. If you are able, we would love that for sure. Okay, well, I think with that, we're going to sign off. Are
Okay.
you good with that?
I'm
Did she
good.
do a great job? She was nervous about this, and she shouldn't be. And let me tell you, for those of you who haven't seen her and don't know her, she has the most beautiful green eyes I've ever seen.
Oh,
They are.
Thank you.
They're really, really
but
pretty.
Suze has the most beautiful blue eyes.
Well, it's odd to have a blue-eyed, green-eyed. Yeah, but yeah, they really are gorgeous green eyes. Yeah. So with that, I'm going to sign off, and we'll see you next week at this time, and we'll find another fun adventure to talk about. Thank you all for joining us. Can we wave goodbye?
Bye.
Thanks a lot.